Shouldn't kosher hot dogs be circumcised?
Next comic, give it loud everybody for Anthony Eugenio. We're having next comic. Very funny. Wayne Russell, everybody.
Welcome to the Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne podcast.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to an Open Mic Pain with Anthony and Wayne. So we are here this week with a special guest edition, and we're really pumped about it. We had Dobie Maxwell on a couple months ago, and he said that we needed to get Jack Lynch on, and we did some research beforehand, and goddamn right we do. Holy shit, is this guy a legend in our industry? How you doing, Jack?
I'm like, wow, who's he talking about?
Well deserved.
Not a legend. I'm just like kind of on the outskirts of comedy. I'm all right. How you doing, man?
See, I don't know if you can go back far enough to imagine what level we are right now. See, that's the reason why, because we just look at someone that can do the amount of years that you did, the amount of time that you can do on stage, and not only the people that you've worked with, but the shit that you've done. And to us, it still feels like we're doing just dive bars and open mics. So, you can't even see the top of that mountain. But before we go too far, I want to bring in my buddy Wayne Russell. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. A little warm down here in the basement. So excuse the glare of my sweaty forehead.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
I just got done walking the dogs. I'm fat, ugly, and sweaty. So my apologies. Yep. I'm not at my best for you. I apologize.
That sounds like a regular fucking Wayne Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday night. That's all it is for me.
Welcome to comedy.
Yep.
Yeah. No shit.
So normally what we do is when we have someone on here with like a level of experience that you have, is we like to ask you about your open mic time. Like we talked to Steve Bjork, Mike Katrobis, and these guys who did mics a long time ago, and they said the scene was completely different than it is now. So how was it coming up for you?
Yeah, same. There was a lot of rooms. I mean, a lot of times you could downtown Boston, you could get up 3, 4, 5 times in one night. But a lot of stuff was very close too, and the traffic was way less back then. As far as going club to club, and it was there was a lot of, and like Nick's had one Monday nights, Tuesday night Catch a Rising Star, and came
Wow.
Wednesdays and Sundays. A showcase show Wednesdays and Sundays that you could usually get on. They'd have a couple paid acts, and then they'd throw on a couple people. And Stitches had Sunday nights. That was over by Fenway Park. There was an open mic where you could bring 3 friends or whatever. And the rooms were usually packed, and it was just totally different. I still do mics now. I still go in once in a while, and I just try to hear myself say the words of, try to work on a new 5 minutes or whatever. It's definitely different.
It's crazy to me that you can remember when mics were, because people will ask me like, hey, like Steve York texted me a few weeks ago. He's like, hey, what's going on tonight for mics? And it was like a Thursday. I was like, I have no fucking idea. Like, I do them all the time. Like, I have no idea. And you're rambling them off. That's incredible.
Well, these are some of the craziest mics of all time, Wayne. These are like, at every single one of them, I imagine you saw a world-class comedian of, like today. People coming up in those clubs, Rogan, CK, Leary, everybody was around during that time, I imagine, right?
Yeah, Leary was just about out of here. Rogan, I worked with one weekend at the Aku Aku in Cambridge, Mass. They used to have where it's now Summer Shack in Cambridge and Fresh Pond, but it used to be the Aku Aku. And that was literally right before I think he moved to New York and got news radio. And then I'm trying to think Leary. We were playing hockey Monday nights, and Leary was the one running the hour when I first started, and he was getting ready to move to New York. Actually, and
Patrice O'Neill, was he around during that time? So Bill Burr and Patrice O'Neill.
Patrice came a little bit later. Patrice was a few years. I want to say, but I knew Patrice a little bit. He was a character, and you knew he liked you if you busted your balls. That's how you knew, because if he didn't Like you. That's funny. I was telling a story last night about him. You know Ken Rogerson? You know Ken? Ken Rogerson, a comic.
Don't know
Headlining
Ken. Do you know Ken
comic.
Wayne?
He's been around a long time. Really funny guy. You get a chance to look him up.
Yeah.
But he's hosting a show one night, and Patrice is busting his balls at Nick's. It was Nick's on like a Thursday night. And Patrice is totally busting his balls. And so Kenny goes up and is hosting the show. And intro to Patrice was, you can watch for this guy this fall on the new show, Webster, My Have You Grown? So he was just trying to get him back. And it's funny, I just get nervous that you guys weren't going to get the Webster reference.
No, that's awesome.
But
Man, Patrice was love that.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. He was hilarious. Slow over and on time. And so, like, if someone went long, it became a thing. Someone pulled a Patrice. Like, it became crazy over their time. His name got attached to it, and for a bunch of years, and then.
Now, was there something that you saw? Because obviously, it is insane that all those like incredible killers came out at the same time. Do you like? Is there anything you could pinpoint in what they did where you're like, there was a spark that they had that they used in order to get to the next step? Or is it just like there was a bunch of people getting better around each other at the same time just because, everybody was that time of the, I don't know, product of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a little of both, I think. A little of both. And some guys, like Patrice, I think the thing with him, he was like a slow burn, but he used to just get up there and just not care. And I think that was a big piece of why he would just say the words and try to figure out what was going to work. And was he seemed fearless. I don't know if he was, but he seemed fearless. And then I'm trying to think of a handful of guys. Like Bob Marley, Marley was around a lot. He had a bunch of shows we used to do. We used to drive like 6 hours up to way up in Maine to do shows with him. But Marley was a guy that
he's the Emperor of Maine.
All he wanted was, what is it? What is he?
I live in Maine, and he is the Emperor of Maine up here. Like he owns this land.
Oh yeah, he does. The Elvis of Maine. He's got kiosks at all the malls, but
yep.
Marley never cared what the money is. I got the show October 20. I'm open. Like, he didn't care what the money was. He never cared. He just wanted to be on stage. All right, it's $50 to drive 2 hours or whatever. He just did it, and I think that was part of why he was he got pretty popular.
Yeah, it does seem like stage time is paramount.
His dad was the sweetest guy. His dad was a door guy at the Comedy Connection in Portland. Was the sweetest man. He was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, when he passed, like there was 1 million comics went to the service, but I mean too now. So.
Oh, that's where I live. Shit, I live in Kittery too.
Oh, that's a right. Yeah, moved here like a year ago. Yeah.
Wow. Welcome. How you liking Kittery?
It's all right. It's different. I was living in Medford, Mass for like 38 years, and so it's like. It's different. It's quiet. I'm not used to stuff closing early, but it's like I'm liking it. I mean, it's a beautiful area, so it's good.
I grew up in Lawrence, Mass, 25 years, so the same thing, culture shock when I came up here to Kittery.
Yeah.
But Pigs Fly, the restaurant there?
Oh yeah.
I live in the ballpark of that, in the woods.
Yeah, we're kind of behind the outlets, like kind of back going towards Elliott, like.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Back there. Look at that. We're neighbors. We didn't even know it. So, good Mike, actually, now that you're in Kittery, if you go up to Biddeford, it's about like 35 minutes north max if it's a little bit of traffic. They have a mic on Wednesdays called the Comedy Mill that I go to almost every Wednesday. They just get a crowd every week, which is awesome. So that's a really cool one if you're just trying to try some shit out.
Much around here. There used to be one in Dover. It was Wednesdays. It's gone now.
Yep.
The Brick
House?
Yeah. I went just.
Yep.
It's kind of fun.
That's a shame. Yeah, I went there. We went there once. It was awesome. Aaron's incredible.
Yeah.
It was a shame when that went away.
Yeah, it was fun too because they'd get there and she'd say, "What do you want to do for time?" Like, so I was like, "Oh, good," so I could go a little bit longer.
Yes.
Yeah, we went there the first time we went there. We were very new, and there were a lot of older people who didn't want to hear anything we had to say, and I don't want to hear what we had to say back then either. So I
Yeah.
don't blame them. But I did like the place. Erin was incredible, and I feel like it would be a different experience at this point where we have things that are not so new.
Well, she does Fury.
say
Something that you
new.
could do. I think it's twice a month or once a month. She does Furies in Dover.
Oh yeah, Monday nights.
Aaron
It's
does
every
it
week.
again?
I think it's on Mondays.
Monday nights.
Oh yeah, it must be every week now. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Obviously, you do as much time as you want on that one. And then Crosstown on Wednesdays is in Haverhill, so that's not too bad from Kittery down there. And Max Schultz runs that, and he definitely has 10-minute plus sets available on those nights, so that's good to get in there. So there's a few. I mean, god damn, could you imagine Wayne going on the Comedy Connection and Stitches and Nick's and all that for open mics? What a great time that would fucking be, huh?
Yeah.
So, Jack, do you remember your first open mic? Do you like what got you to the point where you walked up to stage? Was it like a thing that you were like, "Oh, okay, I'm watching these guys, I want to do it," or was it? We hear a lot of people walking by a bar and going, "Oh, there's an open mic. I'm going to walk up
Right.
and try," and I absolutely killed. And,
Well, it's funny.
What was it for you?
Well, growing up, I couldn't believe. Like, I was a Johnny Carson's monologue. He was on at 11:30 every night, and like even I would like sneak out of bed, and I thought it was amazing that this is kind of like how I always loved comedy, and I used to memorize people's acts and like I'd see on TV or whatever, but. I remember, like, even in middle school, like, one of the English classes, someone said something about a monologue, and I was the only person who knew what a monologue was. Like that kind of thing, but just because I had seen it. Mm-hmm. But so fast forward, and I would always just make my friends laugh or, in school, make people laugh. And then I know it's hard to believe now because I'm so serious, but so fast forward, I ended up, I used to drink a lot. I used to drink a lot and hang out in a club called the Ding Ho and the Comedy Connection. And when it was like Lenny and Bobcat Goldthwait, Stephen Wright, all those guys. Mm-hmm. And I used to I would go in there and drink, and I'd wanted to do the mics, but I never really had the courage. And I just, I'd drink, and then, I knew I wasn't going to end up on stage. But and I got to know a lot of those guys. And then fast forward, I stopped drinking. And about almost 6 years after I stopped, I remember driving down the road, and there's a guy in the radio, 5 o'clock funnies, WBCN, which is gone now, radio station. They used to do 5-minute funnies every night at 5, and this guy's not funny. I'm funnier than this guy. That's kind of what I thought, and I literally pulled over, and I called Catch a Rising Star. This is payphone days. And I said, when's the next open mic? And they gave me a date. It was literally, I think I called in like September. They gave me a date in like November. And they said, what's your address? And you do 5 minutes. We'll send you a card. You can bring 10 friends if you want, like that kind of thing. And
Wow.
So that's how it started. And the first night the guy hosting that night was David Cross.
Oh, no kidding.
Shit.
Yeah, he was hosting.
He's awesome.
I remember I came off stage. I don't remember much, but I was so immersed. But I did about 4.5. I saw the light at the 4, and then I was talking so fast, and I come off stage, like David Cross's outro, he said, great jokes, kid, but slow it down. It's like, because I was like, I just like,
Yeah.
and, but I remember it was just a rush, and I couldn't believe that I did it, and I was like, okay, I'll do it again. And I look at the first few years was like getting on a roller coaster. You're standing in line, like going, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And then you do it, and then you go, I want to do it again, and you get back in line. And that's kind of what it felt like, that rush, that insane adrenaline. And
Oh yeah, we're still feeling to this day for sure.
yeah,
So I had a question actually on that.
sure.
So this is something that I felt in a while. We actually got an email back when we first started. We had we have our website with our email. You could send an email in and whatever. And we actually had somebody reach out to us today. We got the email, and it was something that kind of hit home with me. And it's funny you mentioned it. So we have a listener. Her name is Kelly Lafarbe, and she mentioned about going to our open mics and everything, and then wanting to give up. And she ended up finding our podcast, listening, hearing the struggles that we were going through, and still are, and then deciding I can still do this and keep going. And I've had those thoughts as recently as this afternoon. I was wondering, in terms of you, since you brought it up, did you ever have?
Did I ever have what?
I think I know. I think I know what he's asking. I think he's basically saying, "Have you ever had a time when you doubted what you were doing, and then what brought you back into it?"
Oh yeah, many times, yeah. And years ago, I was getting ready to quit. I was probably, I don't know, 3-4 years into it, and I had a guy that talked me out of it. A guy was a comic who ended up like leaving comedy a year or two later because he had a lot of like tragedy in his family, but he wanted to be there for his family. But he talked me out of that. And other times, I mean, I've had times like literally I was traveling a lot for probably almost 18 years or something. And I remember being in Tampa. I was probably at it like 10, 12 years at that point. And I just had 3 nights in a row where I was just eating it, like just bad. And these were like a paid show, and it was not going well. And every time I went up there, so it got to the point, all I could think of was the line in Braveheart when he goes, "Lord, help me to die well." Like every time I was going to hit the stage.
Yeah.
That's all I could think of, and I was trying to make myself laugh about it. And then finally, by this late show Friday night, I got some kind of rhythm, and I had like 3 good shows in a row, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I can do this," But I was ready. I was just almost embarrassed and wanted to get on a plane and leave,
No, I completely get that. And it's something that Wayne brought up the email where the person was like, I wanted to give up, and then I watched your podcast and I didn't anymore. Wayne's like, "That's so nice," and I'm like, well, this is what I really think it is. I think I forgot who the person said this was. A famous comedian said that nothing breeds comedy like terrible comedy. Like you said, you heard the Friday, the Funnies at 5, and it was horrible, and you're like, I can do that, and that you became, look at what you did from it. So I think could be what this lady means too. She was like, "Man, I was ready to give up, and you guys suck so hard that I decided that totally."
and I've seen people totally bombing, and people laughing, and like I can hear them saying, "He's so horrible," like, and they're laughing at how awful it's going, and a lot of times the comics are in the back of the room. They're laughing at watching you bomb. And then it gets to the point where sometimes I just end up playing to the comics because they're the only ones laughing. They're enjoying my pain, and we all do that. It's kind of because after a while you've been there and you're just like, wow, this is awful. And there's no rhyme or reason.
I know, but
what? Sometimes
Nope.
it just, yeah.
you eat shit. Sometimes you eat shit.
Right.
That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
How's your audio, Wayne? You working, Wayne? Can you not hear us now?
Hey, Wayne.
Do we always have to have it? Hey, buddy. Oh, look at him. He's paused. Got to hear your button, maybe? No, he's out. We're going to have to do this podcast without him, Jack.
It's starting to look like he's
might as well.
He looks like he might be on the witness protection plan. The blurriness got to...
I know. He does. He's blurry. He's with his head down. Looks like a judge is giving him a sentence, how they used to do it during COVID.
It's an episode of
Shit.
Cops.
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, it definitely is. But we're going to barrel through. Let's barrel through this guy.
Okay.
All right. So, first of all, let's take this interruption to plug anything you got going on right now. Do you got any shows that you want to plug?
Oh,
coming
Jesus. I didn't even think of that. I mean, I got stuff coming up, but not... I'd have to look at my calendar. Yeah, but the summer's been quiet.
No, that's
This
okay.
week's quiet. Yeah, what's funny is...
Yeah, it's been a tough summer.
I ended up pulling like some shows out, but it's funny. I'm in Newburyport next Friday, but I don't know where I'm at. I just get called and go, "Hey, are you open?"
I can relate. I got 3 dates right now in my calendar that I'm somewhere. I know that I'm booked, but I don't know where I'm going to be booked.
Yeah. Well, I'll just beg people to follow me on like Instagram or Facebook, and
Yeah. Check out Jack on Instagram, and you can see all of his dates on there. And I'm sure you're going. That's pretty good. So, all right, you get into doing all the stuff in the Comedy Connection, doing those mics. Where do you think, I don't want to call it your big break, but what was the first time you were like, holy shit, I'm doing this thing? Like, do you remember, was there a moment, or was it, again, a gradual effect?
Yeah, there was a couple times. One was when I was hanging out at Nick's. I learned to kind of just hang out there, even like weeknights. And they used to be open 7 days a week. And I was hanging out. I think it was like a Wednesday or Thursday night. And Jonathan Katz, he had that show Dr. Katz on Comedy Central, the animated was the headliner. And someone didn't show up, someone who was supposed to host the show. And they just, one of the door guys said, Jack, you doing 15? He said, can you do 15? I said, yeah, I'll do that. And that was like, all of a sudden I was on this real show. And I did 15. It went pretty good. It wasn't amazing, but I did okay. I got them listening. It's basically what I got them doing. I just kind of got them to listen, got a few chuckles, and I was happy with that. And then another time someone saw me, and it just went really well, and they said, oh, I want to hire you, like, wanted my phone number, and, call me next week, that kind of thing. And so a couple moments like that I get, and then people start pulling you on shows and, want to do 15 up, what are you comfortable doing? So.
Yeah, a couple months ago, I got to do Nick's for the first time, and that was definitely I've been doing it for like a year and a half, and I remember I went there first. Sammy the Legend was the door guy. I'm sure he introduced himself as that.
I remember Sammy, yeah.
and he took me around. He's like, oh, you're the first one here. Let me give you a tour. And he gave me a tour around Nick's and showed me like the weird crevices in there and behind the doors. And I just sat by myself in the lounge for like a half an hour probably. I was that early to sit there. And I remember like, this is the craziest thing because I know I know it's not what it used to be, but holy shit, if those walls could talk, the people that have been in there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it used to be 3 shows upstairs, 3 shows downstairs on the weekends. Like, it was like that crazy. Wow. You'd come off.
So the stage now, is that downstairs or upstairs?
I haven't been there in a few years. I think it's upstairs. I think the stage it's on the 2nd floor. But they used to be, like, downstairs is a nightclub now, and then it used to be. Wayne has a question.
Wayne has a question. Oh, your thing's working.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Yeah. You guys are too close. It's like fucking up the connection.
This is where it should have been from the beginning. It's just the two of us.
2 guys in Kittery.
2 Kittery men.
I'm in a room or I'm an astronaut.
I know, yeah, that is very good. Did you hear about the astronauts that are in space for like 3 years now? And they're like, we're fine. But you can see on their face they're not fine. That's terrible.
I know.
I think they're coming up next year. Did you hear about that one?
Yeah, February 25 is when they're back.
Wow.
My concern is the oxygen. Like, they're saying everything's good, but how much oxygen do they have?
I don't know.
I don't think that's abundant up there.
They got could you, if you do have to track oxygen, you have to track what kind of arguments you can have. Meaning you can be like, listen, we got 4 arguments we can have this month, or we're dead.
What do they do with the waste? Like when you take a shit. They
well,
just,
that's
like,
covered.
shoot that into the sun?
No, it goes into a bag, and then the bag gets shot into the sun.
Why wouldn't they just do individual?
We got a litter if we're gonna go to space.
They compost it.
Elon Musk put a Corvette.
They compost it
into orbit. We can put a little turd.
It's a
Or
Tesla, not a
Tesla
Corvette,
turds.
you poor bitch.
Well, maybe that's how they fuel it. That's how they fuel it.
That's how they fuel it, Wayne. It's NASA's working on this, Wayne. Come on.
I think I messed up my camera in my attempt to like not be staring left. I feel like even if I look this way, I'm looking left. I don't know what it is. Doesn't matter. I'm not looking
I don't
left.
know if you've
Anybody
noticed,
who's
Jack,
watching
but we're not the epitome. We're not doing great either. All right, Wayne, bring us on track, buddy. What do you got?
All right, so Jack, this is a big question I have for you.
Go on.
Because this is another thing struggling with these days. So what year did you start comedy?
91.
91. Okay. So we're
91.
what, 33 years.
I was born November of 91. Are you my dad? Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Son!
Live in Kittery.
Wait a second.
So it was funny. We had another fellow open mic comic, probably about a year ago at this point on the show, and it was right around December actually. And he was like, "What are your goals for 2024?" And my goal was I think at the time I said I wanted to have like an okay 20 minutes, which sounds ridiculous at this point, but at the time I said that, and he had said, hey, you're not going to do that because it's going to get harder and harder to write material. So at 33 years in the game, how hard do you find it to write material? Do you find that your experience at joke writing offsets the lack of new ideas, or is it just kind of a wash? Is it easier, harder? What do you think?
I think in some ways it's harder because I used to like everything was a premise. Like when I first started, first few years, like everything felt like a premise. And then now I'm just, I feel like there's times I'm like apathetic about it. I'm like, well, that's funny. And then I go, well, it's not that funny. Or then I'll go, I'll remember that. And I don't remember it. And I used to do a thing back in the day before to leave with whatever I was thinking. And now I try to at least text myself something, words, key times. Lately I'm coming up with a few new things that are like, I'm trying to expand on stuff that's already working. And I find, I don't know, because even when something's really working well, I like to still work on it and try to add to it or add tags or just make the joke, the bit a minute or two longer if I can, because it's usually, if it's really a really good bit. But I think in some ways these days I'm more complacent. Like I remember hearing someone like Letterman. I remember hearing Letterman saying, "I wish I could write one great joke a week." Like Letterman, I heard Letterman say that, and I was like, and that's something. Even if you write, I remember someone pointing out, if you write a minute a week, that's you end up with 52 minutes at the end of the year. So, am I disciplined like that? No. I kind of wish I was. There's times I'm like, I get wishy-washy about it, and other times I get excited about it. And the thing about bits, though, they get me excited. And something and it's working. Even if I'm getting a moan, I'll keep it just because it's getting a response.
Definitely. There's nothing like a new bit. There's no gift in comedy like when you're like, that can go into my rotation and work. It's like, if this is such a nerdy thing to compare it to, but it's like when you're playing a video game and you like unlock a weapon, you're like, yes, like this fucking thing. That's how I feel. I got a new joke about depressed tigers, and all I've been telling people is like, how sad tigers are in real life every day. I'm just so excited about the bit because it worked.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then you have your jokes that they call money jokes that then you know it's going to hit every time, or 9 times out of 10. And then if you get a crowd where that doesn't hit, you're like, oh, it's going to be a long night. Like, if the money stuff's not working.
Yes.
It's like...
So all of my...
Right.
Yeah, that's all Wayne says, that's for sure. Well, so here's a question. So we've been doing a year and a half. And so we established Wayne sucked the whole time. I've been all right. And and we realized lately, because people have been asking us to host a lot. So I've been doing a lot of hosting shows. Wayne's done a couple hosting shows. And I find that people like me 25% less when I host. And I don't know why. Wayne, I don't know, pretty even keeled. Don't you think, Wayne? You're a pretty good host.
For me, I don't know why, but for me it's about 10% less.
It's only about 10%. But still, they like us less.
I will say like 10% of 100 is only 10. But if you take 10% of like 10,000... it's a lot more less.
A lot less people.
Yeah. And that's a compliment to you. I know you're not good with math. That was basically saying that you're a better comedian than me.
Oh, thank you. Like that. Me or Jack? I mean, both of us. But
both of I don't mean it for you. I do mean it for Jack. But I'm trying to keep up this persona of being a decent individual on the podcast.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And it's interesting too. Like I always look at comedy. Like hosting is a pretty important job. It's a very important job,
yeah.
and a lot of times, the people with the way it goes, is the person with the least amount of experience is doing the hosting, and I always thought that wasn't, they should get someone, a little more experience, but it's way to learn quick and get on your feet. Learn, you have to.
I think you do learn a little quicker because you are going up, you are grabbing that mic. If you're doing just a regular show, you're grabbing that mic 3 or 4 times more than an average comedian on a single night.
Yeah. Steve Bjork had a hell of an answer to that. Remember his answer, Wayne?
Yeah,
When I was like, why do people like me 25% less when I host? He's like, have you ever seen Lenny Clark host? And I'm like, well, he's like, no one likes him less when he hosts. So, like you said, a more experienced person might be able to tear it down.
Yeah. So that same night, that was my first hosting gig, and for some reason, when I was finished my set and I was going to bring up the comics, I said, "Are you guys ready for the real comics?" And I thought I did a really good job. I was excited. I walked off stage. I fucking get this arm motion going on, and Steve Bjork. You know Steve, Jack?
I know Steve. Yeah.
So he's sitting in his booth. He's like the Godfather. He's like a mobster in a booth sitting there, and he just taps on the seat next to him and goes, "Come here." And I was like, "Ooh, I'm getting called over." It's like Johnny Carson. I'm getting called over to Johnny, and and he goes, "Hey, you did really, really good. Don't ever say that. You are a comic just as good as all of them. You're the show. You're bringing your funny friends. Don't ever say, 'Are you ready for the real comics?' You are you are the show." And I was like, "Wow, that I know what he meant by that. It wasn't like everyone's here to see me, but it was you're here to bring the funny to everybody. You're bringing not just your funny, but you're bringing all of these other people's funny to everybody as well." And that really put something in my head from the subsequent times that I've hosted. I'm like, all right, I got that. So I am to be respected as much as everybody else. And what you said, hosting is a hard job, and I think it's a job to be respected, 100%.
I do too, and there's like craft involved.
Eat it off.
There's like a craft involved, like when you get good at it. I like hosting because I used to host a lot of the fundraisers that I put together or whatever, because I set the tone. Mm-hmm. I kind of set the tone. But there's a craft to it where you bring someone up, they're really high energy. When you go back up, the next guy is a little lower energy. You kind of like get them to kind of calm down a little bit, listen to
Yeah.
You tone them down, or if someone like doesn't do well, you try to go up after and just kind of kickstart the crowd again. So there's definitely, and it can get to a point where it's like instinctual. Like you don't even think I have to do this. You just get on stage and you're doing it. You're automatically, and you're able to break up the set, because breaking up the set can be confusing. All right, I'm going to do 30 minutes, but I'm going to break it into 3 different sets, and trying to remember what's what, and that kind of thing. But
and jokes that you kind of like you can earn in your regular set that you if you go up and just do cold, you don't. Like, for instance, I have this pun joke that is about it's crazy, the housing crisis and assholes. It's a pun joke that I talk about assholes it's called anal equity. So that anyways, so I have a whole it's my favorite joke that I have. And it's like 3 minutes because I do anal equity and then dick shrinkage is the second part of it. So it's a dick and buttholes pun joke, and every time I do it, it works really well. So I did a show, one of my first hosting gigs, and the guy was eating shit before me, and he went up, and I was like, "All right, Old Faithful, time to bring this crowd back." And I realized that I couldn't go out there and do a dick and asshole pun joke to a crowd that had just been disappointed by somebody. I had to bring them with a quick joke back. Now I know. Bring them with a quick joke back to get them into me again, and then maybe I could do something a little more outrageous. But it's different. You learn. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
100 people were giving me dirty looks.
Well, and sometimes you can be a great...
You were there, Wayne.
You can be a great host. Go up, like, say you go up front, and you do, like, 10 minutes up front, 10 or 15, and you do really well. And then when you come back, sometimes the crowd has this, we already saw you. Like you're trying to do jokes in between, and they're like, kind of like, nope, bring the next guy. Like, we're done with you. It's this weird, it happens for some reason, and there's no rhyme or reason, but.
We've talked about this quite a bit. To the point where we had like a semi-unofficial drinking game, but I took a hosting class with Mike Katrobis.
Shot everybody.
It was actually yesterday. Was the 1 year anniversary that I came up with my Facebook thing of the showcase we did. But I took a hosting class with Mike Katrobis, and one of the things he said was, if somebody is doing really well and you're the host, just keep it flowing, keep that energy going. But if somebody goes up and bombs, that's when you want to do some time. Try to bring the energy back up for the next comic. And I think that hosting class kind of ruined me for some shows that I've done, where the things that Mike has said and the host has kind of done the opposite of what he put out there. I was like, oh man, well, why didn't you? Why are you doing time after that guy? He killed. He did really good. Shut up and keep going. Or I saw a host do time after the last comic. I was like, don't do that. It was all stuff Mike taught me, and I'm like, really angry about the fact that people are following that.
Well, and it's like, I can tell you all kinds of stuff, and all of us can tell you, oh, you should try this, do this. But in the end, you got to learn it on your own. You got to learn how it feels. Are they laughing? Are they bored? Like whatever. And not personalize it. And then you do that, and not personalize it if it doesn't go well. You just got to kind of go, all right, bring the next act up. And, it's not my night, whatever it is. And sometimes there's a lot of shows where there's no breaking it, there's no fixing it. It's like, it is what it is kind of thing. There's no, just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to fucking try, because we're going to keep fucking hosting. And so this is another Bjork anecdote. Bjork said that in other parts of the country, and you've toured a bit, so you probably would know this too. He said it's completely different from the MC and the host. Like the other parts of the country, they are they feel like almost the feature act of it. They're way more respected. He said New England is an area for some reason that the hosts don't get shit all the time.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that, because a lot of times, you go to other clubs and they'll have a house MC, so the guy's there, 5 nights a week, whatever, and sometimes I've experienced, they're mad that you're from out of town, you're getting more money than them, and they want to just bury you, which is so unprofessional. The job is to set the person up, that's your job, set up the next person you're bringing up, and that's but I've seen guys throw the mic down and follow that, really? Just they're mad because you're out of town. You think you're funny, for whatever reason. And there was a time here in the 80s when the host was the headliner. Back in the day, it used to be Sweeney hosted his show, Lenny hosted his show. If you were headlining, and they'd kill it for 20 minutes up front and then bring you up. Then you some really strong material.
Yeah, Lenny Clark in his prime following that as a bullet or something. That sounds fun. I've seen actually, Katrobis did this at Nick's, which I don't know if this is an older school way of running a set. Maybe it is to this time, but he hosted and headlined the show. The idea where he came up and he did 15, 20 minutes up front, and then he brought everybody up and then did 20 minutes at the end. And I thought that was a really cool way to do it, where he made himself the host and the star of the show type of thing. And that was pretty cool. I didn't see that often.
Yeah.
What are you saying, Wayne?
Isn't that what you just said?
Yeah, that's why I brought it up.
Oh, yeah.
You had to raise your hand to say that, Wayne? Jesus Christ, dude.
Yeah.
Holy
I wanted
shit.
to make you feel dumb.
Raise your hand.
And
You gotta go to the
instead, you
bathroom. Just
raise
go.
your
You don't
hand on
have
a
to ask.
podcast.
I just wanted to make
He's like, I want to make you look dumb.
Yeah. You don't have to raise your hand. This isn't Shawshank. Just go to the bathroom.
Yeah, he's looking for the sisters. That's what he's looking for.
So, Jack, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So you had mentioned earlier about going back to some of your earlier jokes and whatever. That's something that Anthony and I have been doing as of late, and obviously we're still very early in the game at a year and a half. But I've had some success with a couple jokes that I wrote when I first started out, but looking at them through the eyes of somebody who's been going to mics and doing a few shows over the last year and a half. Well, we'll call it since January, so 9 months. But being able to rewrite them and find new life and a better way to say what we're trying to say and make it funny in that way. With 33 years, do you ever go back to your notebooks from when you first started and it's like, oh man, that's a really good idea. I bet I can make a gem out of that now, but back in the day it was a dud.
Yeah, I have done that, and I used to have boxes full of like notes scribbled. Like a lot of times it was like a napkin. Like I was at a club and I thought of something, I wrote it down. It was kind of like a super keeping it and not throwing it because somehow it's a good premise, and somehow I got to work out and just change the words. And I remember someone telling me, like, try something like 10 times. If it doesn't work, rewrite it, or figure out something else. Maybe drop it. But which I do is I just flip the words sometimes. Like maybe I'm too much, that kind of thing. So occasionally I have gone back and found stuff, or the stuff I dropped and I don't even know why I dropped it. I forgot. I just kind of dropped it.
I found that I did that with a couple of things that I've started to kind of revisit now, where we had been going out once a week in the beginning, and we were going to the same mics, and we didn't want to do the same 5 minutes, so we were just writing a bunch of stuff and just putting it aside and never bringing it back. And those are some of the notes that I'm going through. Like, man, that was a pretty good idea, and this was a good idea, and that was a good idea. That was shit, but that's a good idea. And
yeah, there's horrible ones. That's the problem. I try to do the same
really
thing. I look back on mine, and I was like, I read a line, and it just said, do dolphins sneeze out of their blowhole or mouth? And I'm like, what?
I remember that.
I
was just, what am I going to do with that?
You woke up in the middle of the night. Yeah. Well,
exactly. I was like,
I did one that I actually used. I did wake up in the middle of the night and wrote this down. It's the dumbest thing ever. But I wrote, shouldn't kosher hot dogs be circumcised? Like that was.
That's like a perfect one-liner.
It's like
you don't need it, but that's the joke right there.
Right. There's no fat on it. Right. Yeah.
There's no fat. That's a perfect opening line.
But
just start that as I can ever.
But a lot of times the absurd stuff like that turns into something. So, and I look at it as kind of a throwaway line, but I'll say it just once in a while in between something. I'll just throw it out there. It usually does okay.
That's really good.
It's just it's simple, stupid,
See, that's why comedy is so beautiful, is because, like, every once in a while, my wife will see me looking out of a window, and I'll kind of be looking, like, with purpose on my face and a smile. And she'll be like, oh, my God, what are you what is the deep thought you're thinking of? And I'm like, shouldn't kosher hot dogs be circumcised? And you're like, and in your head, you're like, it's beautiful, isn't it? But that's comedy.
I didn't type, but so was it last week? I think it was last week on Wednesday. I did a show that was a benefit for Boston Children's Hospital, and I have this joke. It's my closer. It's about that show. It's a dating show called Down for Love, and the joke is basically like how are these executives getting away with making all these shows about these people with these afflictions. And I think I have something of my own, and I have a bunch of ideas with different afflictions and dating shows, like one with like epilepsy and diabetes and all that stuff.
Well, you gotta set it up first. Down for Love is about people with Down syndrome who are falling in love. So that's why, because you didn't say that. You just said Down for Love.
Yeah. So it's about people with Down syndrome falling in love, and I have all these other shows. And the very end that I would end with was just the name of a show, and it was. Chemo Connection, 6 Months to Love. But the show before that was diabetic dating, and I would have this whole thing like Debbie lost her toes to sugar daddies already. Can she find the one that'll take her heart? And I always love that because people would get a big laugh out of that. But I was given the advice, if you have that biggest laugh right there, don't do the very final chemo connection joke. And I was talking to the guy that gave me that advice, and he's like, well, just put it before. If you like it so much, just put it before. So I came up with an idea for it, and I tried it at that show for the first time. And and it went really well. And I went home and I said to my wife, I was like, hey, remember Chemo Connection? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, I just did a benefit for Boston Children. She goes, no, you didn't. Please don't. Like, she was so concerned at what came out of my head during that joke.
She should have been.
Yeah, she should have been. And
Tough
I love that
one.
feeling. That feeling is almost as good as the laugh you get. Or don't get, I guess, at some points. But when your significant other is like very disciplined.
Oh my god. You're just a dude that gets his ass kicked every day, and then you're like, I like it. It feels good.
It's been my life since like second grade, so that's fine.
And it's funny because sometimes like the dark stuff can just go over really well no matter what, and then other times you're like, oh, the audience gets like, well, that's not a good topic for right now, that kind of thing.
That is really interesting. I have a joke about my mom dying from throat cancer, and I've had many people tell me that you should not do that. That's just not good. But it's one of those jokes where the twist I have on it just always gets a really big laugh. And even some of the people that have told me don't ever do that have been in the room, and they were like, "Yeah, I'm wrong. You can do it. It's fine." That's the way the way it twists. It's good. So people like dark humor. It just has to be clever. I say
well, they do, but to his point, we were talking about it earlier. Remember, I got a joke about racist giraffes who don't like giraffes, and I do, and it's just again one of my favorites. I love talking about it, but 9 out of 10 times people are like, that's hilarious. And sometimes people are like really sympathetic to the giraffes and they get really mad at me. And I don't know how to convince them that that's not a real race of giraffes. But, they either like it or they don't. I don't know if I consider that a dark joke, but it turns the room off. So I guess so.
Right. And then the crowds, sometimes just stuff like that, the crowds will get uptight. And even for whatever reason, like they don't even know why. They're just like, oh, it's inappropriate or whatever they think, And I think it's harder nowadays, I think, in a lot of ways. Because everybody's so damn sensitive.
You just got to be a Patrice. You got to be a Patrice. You can't care. You got to just barrel through it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. It is harder. But at the same time, you can't, like, the whole cancel culture, I don't think you can cancel somebody who doesn't want to be canceled, right? It's like Bill Burr. He tried to get canceled, and people tried to cancel him because he was standing up for Gina Carano for her political views or whatever, right? And they tried to cancel him, and he came out and said, "Yeah, cancel me. What are you going to do? You're going to cancel my bald action figure? I don't give a fuck. I'm going to sell out theaters. Do what you want to do." And he never got canceled.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So I don't think you can cancel somebody who doesn't want to be canceled. I subscribe to the thought that I think anything can be funny as long as it's not said in hate and it's done cleverly.
Yeah.
If somebody goes up and they're blatantly hateful, I don't want to hear it. I'm good.
Dumb sentence. You're like, anything could be funny if it's funny.
No, I said if it's not hateful and it's done cleverly.
Yeah, that's
what can be funny and done hatefully.
But you just described funny. You're clever.
All right. Fine.
That's all right, Wayne. Sorry, you were late and you got sweat in your head. I'm gonna shit on you.
I wasn't late. I got here at 8:27.
Well, you're blurry. It's concerning. You're blurry. Feeling okay?
Definitely.
Everybody's gonna until. Just saying.
I know we are. You are saving yourself from seeing that beard in fucking 1080p. That's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to do this.
You guys are close, huh?
And Anthony once said, "This looks like somebody shit through a screen."
No. This is the line from Goodfellas when they're talking a coffee cake. It looks like somebody put a screen in front of your face and threw shit at it. Yep. right. Well, anyways, I think we're getting to the end of this thing. Oh, Wayne, you want to ask anything else, or do you want to talk about your fucking patchy beard anymore?
You want to shit on me some more through a screen?
Oh my God, you look like a pirate that was lost at sea for fucking 8 months. You're even sunburned. You haven't been in the sun.
I do like the name of your podcast, Open Mic Pain.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's all we felt. It was still
it rhymes with Wayne for a reason.
Right.
son of a bitch.
Push your glasses up your nose, you fucking idiot. It wasn't even down. I got you to do it. All right, find Jack, please, on Instagram and follow him, and unfollow Wayne if you can. This has been a worthy step for the quest for laughs. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks for having me. That- You don't have to raise your hand. This isn't Shawshank. Just go to the bathroom.